What's up YouTube, Zero here, and today I have an extremely fun Glaceon EX and Greninja deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of these cards individually, and I'll talk about why this deck's extremely fun. I'm on an evolution kick right now, coming out with different evolution decks, so Glaceon was next on my list. Of course, this Glaceon EX, was released with Triumphant Light packs, so it's been out for a little while now. And water decks, or ice decks, since Glaceon is an ice type Pokemon, aren't the strongest right now, but there are some fun decks that you can compete with some very good decks. Not saying that I would take this into rank to try and rank up with it. It's just a fun deck that can deal a lot of extra damage from Greninja's ability and Glaceon's ability. This is a deck to use if you love Glaceon. This is a nice deck to put together just to have some fun with it, to have some fun with Glaceon and Greninja. It can definitely compete with some of the decks in the meta, but I wouldn't necessarily say this is groundbreaking or meta breaking. It's just a fun deck to play with. So without further ado, let's get into it. If you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. I do a bunch of other video games, so feel free to check those out as well. Let's talk about Glaceon EX. So Glaceon EX, I just mentioned from the Triumphant Light packs, has an ability and also has one move. Its ability is Snowy Terrain. During Pokemon Checkup, meaning after each player's turn, meaning you can do 20 damage to a specific Pokemon, 10 after your turn and 10 after their turn. If Glaceon EX is in the active spot, do 10 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So as I just mentioned, you can do 10 damage after your turn and 10 damage after your opponent's. Glaceon EX also has Freezing Wind. For 3 energy, 2 water, 1 colorless, you deal 90 damage. So essentially you're dealing 100 because of Snowy Terrain. Could go up to 110 if your opponent leaves their Pokemon in the active slot. However, you do give them the opportunity to heal or retreat, so it may not necessarily be 110 directly. If the opponent does have 110 health left, it may not necessarily kill them. You just have to go off of the 100 damage because of your opponent potentially being able to heal up. 3 energy is a little bit difficult to get going. Once Glaceon does get going, it's okay, but 3 energy for 90 damage, almost 100 if you include Snowy Terrain, isn't fantastic. That's why you don't see Glaceon EX a lot. If you get it going, it's decent, but it's not one of the best because of the amount of energy. If it was 2 energy, it would be a lot better, but being 3 energy, even with the ability, isn't an insanely great card. But if you do want a deck, pairing it with Greninja is absolutely fantastic. So let's talk about why it's fantastic to pair up with Greninja by going to Greninja. Greninja is a fantastic card that's in a lot of decks right now. It's actually in a lot of meta decks. Even decks that don't use water energy, you can find Greninja in because of its ability, Water Shuriken. Water Shuriken, once during your turn, you may do 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So you can deal 20 damage to the Pokemon in the active slot. You can deal 20 damage to a Pokemon on the bench. It does not matter. You get to choose your opponent's Pokemon, and you can deal 20 damage to that Pokemon. That's absolutely fantastic because you can pick and choose. You can add that damage to the Pokemon in the active slot. So Greninja plus Glaceon EX has the potential at the end of both your turn and your opponent's turn to deal up to 130 damage to the Pokemon in the active slot. So that's pretty good, and that's why these two pair pretty well with each other. You get Glaceon, as long as you have the 3 energy, you can deal 90 damage. You get Snowy Terrain for 10. Before you even attack, you're dealing Water Shuriken for 20, so that's 120. If your opponent leaves their Pokemon in the active slot, you do another 10 with Snowy Terrain, so you're up to 130 damage. So those two combined can be pretty good. 130 damage is a pretty good amount of damage to be dealing to your opponent. So that's why when I do want to utilize Glaceon EX, I'm pairing Glaceon up with Greninja because of Greninja's ability. Greninja can still attack, and it's not too awful, but it's not great. For 2 energy, one of which is water, you have Mist Slash for 60 damage. So again, with Water Shuriken, you can deal up to 80. 80 is not too bad for 2 water energy or 1 water, 1 colorless. So that's not awful. I do love Greninja. It's a great Pokemon, not just for this deck, but for a lot of different decks. This is a card you're going to see a lot, not just now, but in the future, because it pairs up so well in so many decks, dealing that extra 20 damage. And Greninja was a card released with the original packs, so you can find it in the Genetic Apex Charizard packs. Along with Greninja, a couple of basics that you're going to need. You're going to need Froakie, which is the basic for Greninja to evolve into Greninja. You can also find it in the Genetic Apex Charizard packs. I do have 1 Frogadier just to give me an extra opportunity to evolve into Greninja, because most likely to win battles, Greninja is going to be key. So I do have 1 Frogadier, which is also found in the Genetic Apex Charizard packs. Now I gotta hop back to Glaceon and talk about Eevee, because you need Eevee before you get to Glaceon. And I actually have the Eevee EXs, and there's a reason for this. Glaceon takes a little while to build up. You need 3 water energy, which is a little hard to get to in today's meta. However, Eevee EX lessens this a little bit. The reason why it lessens it a little bit is because you have Bite, which deals 30 damage for 1 colorless energy. So that's a decent amount of damage for a basic Pokemon. Eevee EX also has 90 HP, which isn't great for an EX Pokemon. However, to start a match by putting 1 or 2 energy on it, you're gonna be okay in certain situations. It's not gonna be every situation, but you can see how your opponent is playing it. You can see what deck your opponent has, and you can kind of play it by ear. You can leave Eevee EX out there a little bit longer, equip 1 or 2 energy on it, just to get 1, the energy built up for Glaceon EX, and 2, dealing the 30 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, so you can have a little bit of built up damage on it when you do get into Glaceon EX. So I do like Eevee EX here, and it also has Evolve, which just gives you the opportunity to evolve into any evolution that you want as long as you have it in your hand. So it really doesn't do too much as an ability, but it does have Bite for 30, which can allow you to deal some extra damage early on, which is why I like Eevee EX. And Eevee EX can be found in the Eevee Grove packs. Next, let's talk about Rare Candy real quick, because it does help evolve into Greninja quicker. As long as you have Froakie on the playing field for at least 1 turn, and you have a Rare Candy and a Greninja in your hand, you can evolve directly into Greninja, your stage 2, skipping your Frogadier, your stage 1. So it's a really nice card to have. You can get Greninja online a lot quicker than you could before, 1 turn quicker than you could before. You can find Rare Candy in these Celestial Guardians packs. Great card to have, especially for Greninja, so you can get that Water Shuriken online a lot quicker. And even so, if you haven't evolved into Glaceon, Eevee EX doing its 30 damage plus your Greninja's Water Shuriken for 20 is really nice to get going quickly. Dealing 50 per turn is absolutely awesome, so that's great to have as well. If you can't get to your Glaceon, having Eevee dealing that 30 damage is pretty nice to have. Next, a couple of basics. Pokeball, you draw a basic card from your deck to your hand, and then Professor's Research, you draw 2 cards. Pretty basic to get cards into your hand a little bit quicker. Next, I'm going to talk about Eevee Bag. Eevee Bag is pretty awesome, especially for any Eevee centered deck. So Eevee bag, you actually get one of two options. You can either, one, during this turn, attacks used by your Pokemon that evolve from Eevee do plus 10 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Or, number two, you can heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon that evolves from Eevee. So this is going to be great when paired up with Glaceon. I mentioned earlier that with Snowy Terrain, with Water Shuriken, you can deal up after your turn and your opponent's turn up to 130 damage, which is pretty nice. You can actually play both Eevee bags at once. So if you play both Eevee bags and decide to utilize the damage, you can deal up to 150 damage with the combination of Greninja's Water Shuriken, Glaceon EX's Freezing Wind, Snowy Terrain, and Eevee bags, two of them. So that's pretty nice to deal 150 damage. You can take out a lot of Pokemon with that. So I do love Eevee bag here being able to deal that extra damage. But it's also nice to be able to heal if it's really needed. You can heal up your Glaceon for 40 HP with both of the Eevee bags if needed, which can help take away some early damage that may have been done to your Eevee EX. So I do like the option that Eevee bag gives Glaceon, whether I want to heal or whether I want to attack for more damage. Eevee bag has not only gotten me some extra kills, but it's also saved my Glaceon in certain battles as well, putting my Glaceon just out of reach of a breaking point. So having the option from Eevee bag is really nice to have and can either finish off an opponent or save your Glaceon for at least one more turn. So I love Eevee bag. It is found in the Eevee Grove packs. Next, couple of my favorite cards. Y'all already know if you've watched my videos before, Sabrina and Cyrus, two phenomenal cards to be utilizing really in any deck. Sabrina is fantastic. You switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. Of course, your opponent gets to choose which Pokemon to put in that active slot, but it's really great to either getting to a Pokemon you want on the bench, whether it's just getting a Pokemon out of that active slot that you don't want there. Perhaps the opponent has a tool on that Pokemon that you don't want to deal with, or maybe you're just trying to throw off your opponent's strategy. Perhaps they have a card in that active slot that has all of the energy built up on it. They have a Pokemon on the bench that requires a lot of energy to retreat, so you're forcing that Pokemon into the active slot, and now your opponent has to figure out how to retreat that Pokemon or figure out a way to re-implement their strategy. I absolutely love Sabrina. It's a phenomenal card. I use it in almost all of my decks. It can be found in the Genetic Apex Charizard packs. Really phenomenal card. Last but not least, Cyrus. You switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has damage on it to the active spot. This is an obvious pair with Greninja. Greninja can utilize Water Shuriken on any Pokemon on the battlefield. You can utilize it on a bench Pokemon, you can utilize it on an active Pokemon. Perhaps there is a Pokemon on the bench that you want to get to. It's a Pokemon that already doesn't have a lot of HP that you can utilize Cyrus on, or it's a Pokemon that you want to take out before your opponent gets to their evolution. Utilize Greninja with Cyrus to be able to accomplish that. You utilize Greninja, Water Shuriken, a Pokemon on the bench. Now it has damage on it. Now you can utilize Cyrus to bring that Pokemon out to the active slot. It's a fantastic combination. Also, Glaceon EX is not going to be KOing a lot of very powerful Pokemon. It's going to be KOing some, but it's not going to be KOing a lot because it's only dealing 90 plus its 10 Snowy Terrain damage, which is 100. Not going to be KOing a lot. So there's going to be opportunity for your opponent to retreat their weakened Pokemon to the bench. Cyrus isn't going to allow them to keep those Pokemon on the bench. So that's another reason to utilize Cyrus, is to get those weakened Pokemon from your opponent's bench into that active slot so you can finish them off. I do really enjoy this deck. I have fun with it. It's not the best deck There are absolutely better decks out there. As I mentioned earlier, water decks aren't great in the meta right now, but there are some ways to play it where you can have fun with some water decks. Most of them are going to revolve around throwing Greninja out there, since Greninja can deal that extra damage. But this is a fun deck. You can absolutely have fun with it, compete with some of the best decks, and win with it. I definitely had fun with it and beat some pretty good decks with it. Let me know in the comments section what y'all think of this deck. Are you a fan of Glaceon? Not just in this game, but in general. Do you like Glaceon as a Pokemon? Are you hoping for a better rendition of Glaceon to come out? I do know there was another release of Glaceon with the Eevee packs that just released. It's an okay Pokemon, again, kind of along the lines of this Glaceon EX, where it's okay, not great. But I do enjoy Glaceon as a Pokemon. I really like all of the evolutions, so I was happy to find a deck that did work and could get wins with a Glaceon EX. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Again, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon TCG content. Thank you so much in advance for doing so. It does really help out me and my channel. Till next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.